Hi, everyone. My name is Monica Lauriola. This is the first episode of my new podcast called reJUVEnation. So I came up with the name reJUVEnation basically to highlight Juventus's project or what we see Juventus trying to do, integrating the youth into the team. So I thought it was a little clever name. Basically, we're here to talk Juve. With the whole pandemic going on, it's nice to kind of dive outside of that and discuss our favorite team, disagree, agree. So I've been wanting to do this for a while. So let's see how this goes. And I'd love for everyone to join me on here and get some new perspectives in. So my first guest is, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm Monica's brother. So I'm the guinea pig for this podcast. So I'm happy to be here, I guess, to start this thing off.
So a little bit, I guess, about how I started watching Juve. It'll probably be the same as my brother, and why Juve for us. So just a quick thing. Mainly, our dad kind of got us into soccer in general, and watching the Azzurri and Juventus. And specifically, what stuck with me was Del Piero, and I think it would be the same for you.
Yeah, I think it was much of the same. I think I started as a fan a little bit earlier than you, but probably that I think I first started following Juventus during that Champions League run, where they had that magical two-leg against Real Madrid to lose to Milan in penalties. But I started watching a little bit before that, but it was much more kind of Italy here and there with that. But that's probably when it started.
Okay, so I don't want to spend too much time about ourselves. I want to get through a lot of stuff,
I mean,
and
as
I don't want.
interesting as we are, but
I don't want to uh, steer too off topic. So let's get down to the post game today. So it was a good win, 2-0, a much needed win in my opinion. We have a tight schedule in general, and a really tough February. Europe is coming up as well. So I just want to get into some comments from after the game, starting with Pirlo. Pirlo said that we've prepared for this sort of game. We knew that Roma play very good football, and we were ready to sit tight and hit them on the break. And in the reverse fixture, Roma employed the same tactic against us, and this time we wanted to turn the game on its head tactically. So that's from the official Juventus website. What are your thoughts on that that point that Pirlo brings up?
I mean, this is probably a game that we've been crying for, I guess. Like, I mean, as weird as that sounds, is that I don't think constantly playing 11 guys or 10 guys forward is something that's going to work all the time. And if you remember to that second game against Roma, it seems like we threw everybody up front, similar to what we did with Sampdoria. It worked against Sampdoria, an inferior side. But against Roma, they were countering us like crazy, and it really was like one guy back, and then it looked like Danilo was always chasing to try to get cover through the open gaps that were left open through counters. And I think we got kind of lucky that game not to lose that. And it looks like maybe Pirlo is and probably for the better, adapting his tactics to his opponent, as opposed to just constantly going out there with the same style, because it's not always going to work.
I have to agree on that, and I think Pirlo actually did very well in that sense. We'll get more into that. I just want to touch on Arthur and what he had to say for after the game. He said, personally, I want to thank the coaching staff for all the help they've given me. Pirlo spends a lot of time explaining things to me, asking me where and how I prefer to play. And I'm very pleased with the progress I've made. Are you very pleased with the progress Arthur's made?
Yeah, but I think you and I were calling for him to be a starter from the beginning. I mean, obviously it's different. He came over from La Liga, so you have to adapt to the league. But I mean, again, I think it is what it is. I don't think there's ever going to be a 3-man midfield with Pirlo, like your prototypical 3-man mid. But I think he has to be one of those two guys. I mean, obviously McKennie would be a part of that, but one of those guys with Bentancur or Rabiot is just, you saw it today too. You see it a lot where obviously he's a liability defensively. It is what it is, but the way he caresses the ball is just, you need it to relieve some pressure from the back, where we see a lot of hesitation and wild balls coming out from the back. He's a guy that I think brings a little bit of comfort back there. I mean, it's a whatever Bentancur said in that after that last match. I mean, I don't think he's below Iniesta, like the way he made it seem was like he was right below Iniesta, but he is probably going to be an integral part moving forward.
So given that, as a follow-up, I mean, I agree that Arthur is integral to, I think, anything Juve wants to achieve on the offensive end. We probably didn't see too much of him or any other midfielder today because of how much defending we were doing. I obviously feel like Arthur's going to flourish with the ball at his feet, and we didn't really have the ball at our feet today. But given said that,
I mean, you're right. But he even though we weren't really on the offensive that much, he still was put in spots where he had to, in very very tight spots where he had to get out of it, and he had the ball at his feet still.
yeah,
Like
for sure.
it's imperative that he's there.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
For me, I'd probably line up with him and Bentancur as the pivot, just because I feel like they're the only two guys who can actually move the ball quickly out of their feet, and they're the only guys who actually are comfortable on the ball in those areas in the middle
Yeah.
of the pitch. I like Rabiot, but he kind of took a step back for me lately. Um, he was great since the return after COVID, and him and Bentancur kind of switched the form in that sense. But I feel like he's taken a step back, and we're in a position where I'm not really sure kind of what midfielders do what on our team in a sense. And for
Right.
me, I struggle with him and Bentancur, but given the situation and status of our midfield, I would choose Bentancur just because I know he can at least possess the ball better, and that's clearly what Pirlo's game plan is, that possession game. Although I'm not completely sold on Bentancur, I would put him along with Arthur, McKennie, and Chiesa. That would kind of make up my midfield.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's only two midfielders on the team that you actually know what they do and what they're supposed to be doing. That's McKennie and Arthur. No matter what all the fans want Arthur to be, he's not going to be Andrea Pirlo. In his prime. Like he's not that type of player, and I don't think he has to be that type of player. There's been plenty of successful players that just hold the midfield and they pass it. They get out of those tight spots, and they'll let somebody else do all the creative work. And I think that's, so I don't, the expectation for him to be that is just, doesn't really make sense. I mean, that's why you go get Chiesa and I don't know, Kulusevski, like these guys that are supposed to create moving forward, and or connect that midfield to the forwards. I think really only Chiesa has been the guy who's been doing that, but I mean, lay off of Arthur, I guess.
So I'm gonna post your player ratings for today's match.
Yep.
And I just wanted to point out that you gave Morata a 5 in your ratings. I don't know
Sure.
if you were aware of this stat, but according to Opta Paolo, he's provided the most assists, 7, among all strikers in Serie A this season, and 4 of the 7 have been assisted to Ronaldo.
Yeah.
So why did you give him a 5?
Well, I mean, he almost had another one where Ronaldo's hit that off the bar. Morata hasn't really been in form in a while, and obviously the expectation is to do more than just. I mean, his expectation is still to score and to get into those spots, and he hasn't really been doing that lately. So I don't, and he didn't do that this game either. So if we're talking just this game, I mean, aside from that pass, like what did you really see from him? There was very little hold up play. He very, very rarely got in behind the defenders. So I don't. Why would you give him anything more?
To be fair, you're right. I mean, we didn't really do much in general.
Fair, but I mean, like, I think people have to stop. You know, they have to stop judging people based on their career or like before. You know what I mean? Like like if we're giving game ratings, well, what did he do in this game? Not much. Whether that's the tactics or not, but I mean, still not much.
So how do you feel about him being the top guy in Serie A, top striker with the most assists? Do you think he's still Ronaldo's best partner?
Yeah, and who else would it be? There's Dybala seems to be taking this year off. I guess I don't know. Seems to have like a load of issues. I don't know if that's me being ignorant or he just has the Casano injury or something. Where he just decides I'm just gonna wait it out till I get a new contract or something like that. Like I don't know. He hasn't, you know, yeah, obviously he's gone through it with COVID and other viruses. I guess I don't know gastro and viruses. Like I don't know what those reports were from Argentina, and now he's injured. So I mean Kulusevski, like Kulusevski and Morata are two very different players. I mean, I think Kulusevski is probably closer to a second striker than a winger, but I think they're just two very different players, and I think and obviously like who would you put in a big match? My hands down would be Morata. Like I think he does work well with Ronaldo, and he does make good runs. I'm not bashing the guy. I'm just saying if we're talking about this game, you didn't really see much from a lot of players. There was a few that stood out, but not. I mean, he's not one of them.
That's fair. So if Morata wasn't your man of the match, who was?
I'd probably go. I don't know. I had a few that I did like. I mean, it would probably be a toss up between Chiellini and Ronaldo. I think. I mean, not just because of the goal, but I do think that. I mean, like when Juventus kind of started the match, they were kind of on the front foot, and I think he was a big part of that. Yeah, he did get that honestly weak foot, just a direct laser to the bottom corner. There it was a fantastic goal, but I just think Chiellini brings something else in the defense. Um, when he's back there, it's a different team. I think so. I'd probably tip Chiellini as probably the man of the match.
So my man of the match was this guy. I think that he coached a game that he's never coached before. So we obviously know that he wants the ball at our feet. You know, that possession game, build up, even going backwards, this and that. But I feel like he learned from his mistakes. So like he said in the press conference, um, how we did the reverse to them, we flipped the tactics on their head. Um, I feel like that's a huge positive that he's able to grow and learn from his mistakes. You saw such a high line from Juve the first time around when we played Roma, and they were just killing us on the counterattacks. I tweeted out before the game, we have to make sure that we nullify their counterattacks because a lot of their game is built on that play. And it's good that Pirlo actually like watch back the tape and learn from his mistakes because I think it could have been much uglier, with Mkhitaryan and those guys like running at our defense, because we're awful. We've been awful in transition defensively. Um, Too much space allowed for the opposition to just walk through. When Delict, for example, Bonucci, Chiellini, they go like right at the halfway point, and it's just like a quick break in our defense. And so I feel like Pirlo gets an A+ for me for today, trying something different, because like you said, you're not gonna win that beautiful of offensive
No.
football all the time, especially when you're gonna have to grind it out against teams that are better than you, like in Europe, for example, Bayern Munich and teams like that. If you really want to win the Champions League, um, and some say that he put on his Allegri hat today, so
Yeah, I agree
um,
with that. I
I'll
mean,
have to
she
give it
would.
up to Pirlo today for sure.
Yeah.
I've been a little harsh on him, and I think you have too when we have our discussions in the house. Um, but I think he would be my man of the match. And I mean, he even got his subs right. I was a little skeptical about Alexandro starting, and he actually played a pretty decent game. So he would be my man of the match, obviously, outside of Chiellini, who's the obvious choice on the pitch for me. Given the play that we saw from Pirlo, the tactics, the Allegri ball, let's say, um, would you deem this as a positive or negative? And would you do you enjoy seeing this? Like, is this something that you think we should keep going with forward? I'm asking this question because I'm referring to a Who Scored stat. It basically said that 44% of the action of the game was in Juve's half, 44% was in the middle of the pitch, and only 13% of the action was in Roma's half. So it was quite evident that these stats match kind of what we saw. So I'm just curious as to a lot of people. I was reading the comments on the Who Scored stat, and everyone was like, "Oh, this Juve, like Ronaldo's with this Juve, they're saving. Like, are they gonna play like this in Europe? This is such a boring game." Blah blah
Who?
blah. I just
Who is
all
like
the
what? Like Ronaldo fans? Like, give me a break, man.
just all the
Like,
comments were negative. So, um, just seeing if you agree
tough,
with
man.
the lack of entertainment.
That's the best Juve. Like that is like. Tell me a time where Juventus has ever played a forward thinking football. Maybe like the last time that I could think of was when they were in Europe on that first run where they lost to Barca in the finals. I think they're on the front foot in the knockout stages. I mean, I think they were a bit still sloppy in the group stages, but in the knockout stages, like they took it to Borussia Dortmund. They really went. They pushed it forward, obviously, until they had Real Madrid in that two leg. Like they had to kind of be more methodical then. But I mean, so people are upset that Juventus are that Pirlo decided to tactically set his team up. You know, they started the game well. The first like what, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, like they were trying to score and not just score one, score more. And then they just ended up sitting back, especially in that second half. But I mean, they so then the last like what round week are we on now? Like I don't know, 19 or something, 20, 21, 22. Like what game week are we at? Like so the other 19 games of them throwing 11 guys and a cooler at the other side and scoring one goal and then getting scored on anyways and go 1-1, dropping points to Benevento, Crotone, like these type of teams. You're okay? Like people are okay with that? It doesn't make any sense because in those games, I feel like Allegri would have just they'd get a goal and they'd probably grind it out and maybe get a second one and close off the game. it hasn't been like that with under Pirlo, and I think this is a different change. And I tweeted about this when Inter in that Coppa Italia in the beginning when they were down 1-0. I'm like, again, you know, that first game against Inter in the Serie A, like Conte literally just sat back, let Juventus throw 11 guys at him, and then absolutely slaughtered him on the counterattack through Barella. And Chiellini pocketed Lukaku. Like, like there was even John Terry even gave him props. Like, it was a masterclass performance, like a clinical Giorgio performance. Like, just pocketed him, and still they got slaughtered because and like Conte was literally like played it perfectly, and then that's how it started again in that Coppa Italia final. I mean, Juventus caught a break with that penalty. It was a penalty in my opinion, but still a break, and then another break where Handanovic kind of messed it up in the back. There was they got their wires crossed and Ronaldo capitalized, but and then when they had to force Inter to come take it to them, they had nothing going.
But
Right?
do you think that this performance doesn't happen without Chiellini?
Uh, yeah, probably not. I don't know, debatable, but probably not. Man, Chiellini, I think I'll say this: people got to stop slandering this guy. I've been, pop on Twitter this Juve Twitter call saying that he's not top five in the history of Juventus, or what? I don't know. I guess that could be accurate, given like the long history of legends that played in the back. But I mean, anybody who rates Cannavaro over Chiellini in a Juventus jersey, wild to me. Wild. That is blasphemy. You want to talk about Azzurri for sure. I mean, the master performance in 2006, but in a Juventus jersey, it's not even close, man. I would definitely call Chiellini in the past 10 years top 5 center back in the world. And honestly, I'd argue top 2 between him and Sergio Ramos, honestly. So, I mean, what Juventus have to do now, I mean, not to get off topic, but what they have to do now is use him sparingly in these key games because he's never there in
For
those big
sure.
games because of how he plays and how he's always injured
And I
because of
think
how he
Pirlo
played past.
I think Pirlo's been doing a good job about that. I know a lot of people are crying for De Ligt and Chiellini and keep bashing him playing Bonucci, but I think the rotation is good. Pairing De Ligt with Demiral and Chiellini with Bonucci, I think that's perfectly balanced. Obviously, for the big games, if Chiellini and De Ligt are injury free, fully healthy, ready to go, I would pair both of them together. But I think that Bonucci plays much better beside Chiellini, and we know what we get from Bonucci, and we've said it before, you and I. Um, but I think the pairings are good, and I wouldn't want to go and rotate for Coppa Italia, for example, with Bonucci and Demiral as the pairing, right? So
I mean, at this point, Coppa is already almost done. I mean, they have one more leg and they're up 2-1.
well,
That,
I hope that this video isn't used as a meme
that they're
of
winning.
of
That
you
I'm not. Yeah,
checking in our final ticket already.
yeah. But I mean, there's only 2 games left in there. But I mean, I get your point. And if you had to rotate someone in, I would rotate the leg for Chiellini in terms of like if you had to mix it up between a big Champions League game and a Serie A game. I mean, realistically, every game is important now for Serie A because we're not in first, so they got to rack up points here.
So we kind of touched on the defense, but I had some feedback on Twitter to kind of get us talking about the contrasting generations of our defensemen. So kind of like we touched on Chiellini Bonucci pairing that averages maybe 70 years old versus Demiral and De Ligt. Who So for example, we're in a Champions League final or the Scudetto's on the line. Like who would you pick?
I mean, no brainer. I'd go Bonucci and Chiellini. Like no brainer at all. And look, man, Twitter is so predictable, and like just people's opinions are just really predictable, because if they were to lose the Champions League final or the Coppa Italia final, they'd be like, and if it's a mistake or something, or I mean, well, it depends how big the mistake is, but I mean, even so, they would just be like, oh, well, De Ligt or Demiral should have played, or oh, they're past it, and blah blah blah, and it's like, I mean, you can make that argument, but they're still the two best defenders on the team. Like Demiral, every time he plays, hasn't shocked me out of my seat. De Ligt, I think, that first goal against Inter was just, I mean, Demiral was just way out of position, could not catch up. And then De Ligt too, that ball went right to him. I don't know what he was doing there. Could have been a disaster.
Well,
So
it was a disaster. They
oh, it
scored.
was. They did score. Yeah, you're right. But I mean, like I said, luckily enough, they caught a couple breaks.
Mhm.
But and I think a lot of people. Well, first of all, they've. I'm not saying De Ligt is bad. I think he's probably the best defensive prospect in the world right now. But they're like crowning this guy the king because of what he did at Ajax. I mean, it's different life now in Serie A. So, I mean, like if he was that good, I think he would already took Chiellini's spot, if you want my opinion, through all the injuries. I mean, that's generally how it works on the defensive end. Like if there's an injury and someone comes in and slots in, you're probably not getting it back.
Somewhat argue that Chiellini Bonucci partnership remains alive because of their friendship with Pirlo, specifically Bonucci.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, like I don't know. It just kind of seems like I feel like it kind of seems like Pirlo would just um, if he had to pull the trigger and drop him if he had to. That's just my opinion. I mean, like you said it before, he's like, I don't play Buffon because he's my friend. I play him because he's still one of the best in the world. So there's that, right? But I mean, you never know, I guess.
So Pirlo did say basically about our defense. Pirlo stated that Chiellini is playing very well. They all are. Moral is high, and defensively we're strong and more alert than we were before. So I'm not sure if you know, but we registered our 6th clean sheet in Serie A, and no points for guessing who was on the pitch for 4 of those.
Am I supposed to guess? Is that what this is? It's a guessing game.
Anyways, it's Giorgio Chiellini.
Yeah.
He's been a part of 4 out of the 6 clean sheets, and this guy just basically regained fitness.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild to me.
Yeah. I think it's just more than just like you have to understand the game. I think that's what separates um, defenders, though. Like I mean, I think that's what separates good defenders from the best defenders. I think that's why, you know, um, certain players have been able to play deep their into their age. I guess, Sergio Ramos, Puyol before. Like I think that's kind of what separates the good from the great. Eventually, you got to hang them up. I mean, like or you got to make way for the other, for the younger. But I mean, what he did on Lukaku, which is like, I don't know, I think he's overrated. Um, but I mean, what like he just completely locked him down. I mean, obviously they got the rest of the team was horrible in that game, but I mean, you literally have him man marking this guy, and the guy couldn't sniff the ball.
And it's
Was
much more than just his defensive abilities, right? It's that mentality. And
well,
you
he's a
see
captain.
you see like in the beginning of the season when he was missing early on, and then Ronaldo got COVID, you saw like where's the guy to step up, right? And
Yeah,
no one was there to step up. Not De Ligt, who everyone was like, give him the captain's band. He's,
yeah. I don't even.
like, you know what I mean? Like, not Dybala, of course. just, like there's three champions on that team, like Buffon,
Yeah, I mean, event like
Chiellini, and Ronaldo. Those are really the three champs on the team, and it makes such a difference
yeah,
having at least Ronaldo and Chiellini has just this is rejuvenation for young people, but he's rejuvenated that back line for sure.
yeah.
You know,
I mean, I think he's probably even given the whole team confidence though in the back. Like I
yeah, like
think,
we said, like
yeah.
how Bonucci benefits, from having him beside him.
Then that's who cares then. Like just win. Like who cares? Like people want to see their favorite players play or whatever, but if they're not good enough right now, who cares? It's my opinion.
So another topic that Twitter wanted us to discuss. I don't think there'd be much debate here because we are one with Juan Cuadrado. We both like
Good point.
Cuadrado.
Yeah.
But they wanted us to discuss whether he's a hero or a villain. I know it was mentioned today. Of course, he played in that really nice ball to Kulusevski, which led to the own goal. But then he was giving possession away in the back a few times as well in key areas when we were trying to get out of the press. So I guess that's where that question stems from. And just in general, there's huge debate whether Cuadrado is a liability or if his offense is worth that risk at the back.
Well, all right, I think this is like a two-part question, really. If you're asking, so I don't know who sent you this tweet or whatever, who asked you to talk about it, but if you're asking if he's a hero and a villain in the sense that because they have him, they're not actively looking for a better right back, like because he's that type of player that can be used. If they had to, if they were ever short in the mid, they can throw him into the midfield. They can play him at right back. They can play him at winger. Like he's that type of player, and obviously he's cheap. So, and they have him, and he wants to be there. So I mean, is he a hero or a villain in that sense? Like, I guess you could say he's a villain because, I mean, obviously Juventus are more of like a budget big team, I would say still, and probably doing it smartly. But I'd say maybe he's a villain in that sense. But is he important to the team? Sure. I mean, like I would argue yes. Okay, he's a liability in the back. What are you gonna do? I mean, a lot of fullbacks are liabilities in the back. Just look at Cancelo, but he's killing it under Guardiola. He's all over the pitch, and he might be the best fullback, or maybe just best right back in England, because you have a couple of good ones in Liverpool, so you can throw that argument here and there. But I mean, like but the ones that because like it depends what you want. A fullback that's going to attack constantly, they're probably going to be a little bit liable in the back, and I think that's just what it was with Dani Alves. Even at Barca, Marcelo, like I think you can't have both.
It's interesting because a lot of people like Theo Hernandez and Hakimi, um, but if you actually watch them, they're not the greatest, defensively. And Conte has lost his shit over Hakimi for that sense, but they're really good offensively. Maybe not. Maybe Cuadrado is not as good offensively as them, but I think Cuadrado is the hybrid, fullback, the modern fullback, like you mentioned, Cancelo. I didn't want, like, I wasn't pleased about Cancelo being sold. It actually turns out to be, a decent sell with Danilo's form this season. However, I don't see the issue in Cuadrado like the way people are making it out to be. Um, I don't know the exact number of assists this season that he has, but I think he's our second top assist player this season. Um, and I feel like he's integral. to our play on that right side. The partnership with that Cuadrado has made with Morata, it has been, like essential as well. That pair has, produced so many key goals this season so far, and even Cuadrado alone. What was it in the Coppa Italia? I mean the Super Cup. What was the game? They're all coming so fast now. That Cuadrado made such a nice pass across. I mean, it was just like a simple pass across.
Mm,
But he was so like
I don't know.
unselfish, and
He's
he's
done a
been
few of those.
he's been doing that frequently.
Yeah.
So
Look, the one thing I'll say about Cuadrado, last thing I'll say about him is that for whatever his flaws are, I guess, that people like to point out because they want to point out something, I would say that if you look at a lot of the key games, he's been there and he's done something in them. Like that one time where we turned the season around against Torino, he was the guy. Where we had an absolute depleted squad against Bayern Munich, he was the guy. Like he contributed there. I mean, we didn't end up passing because that I don't know, just kicked the ball out in the last second, and you probably win. But like he's seems to be a guy who shows up to these games. I would never put him as like a big game player, but he seems to show up for Juventus. So I mean, listen, if there was a better fullback that Juventus had, then you'd want to play him. But I like even if there was, I still keep him around because he's a utility guy.
people argue to play Danilo on his preferred right side and Alexandro on the left.
I mean, Alexandro, I don't know if he's unfit, but he looked like he couldn't run a 100-meter dash in 20 minutes probably today. So
He was one of the players who was actually symptomatic with his COVID, but regardless of that, he's been questionable for the past 3 seasons. So I don't want to blame it too much on COVID.
and don't like why would you want to move Danilo from where he's playing so well at? Like I feel like
The thing
Juventus.
the thing I find funny is the same people who are kind of like Cuadrado this, Cuadrado that, are like saying give Frabotta a chance.
He's horrible, man. I wouldn't. I
So
wouldn't. I would never use that. I would never rely on him. He had that one good game, and after that, it's just been awful. So don't. I mean, yeah, keep him around. Obviously, like he's a cheap alternative, but I mean, what like that doesn't make any sense to me. And just on Danilo, I think like why would you want to move him from where Tudor and well, Tudor apparently has been working with him personally, but and Pirlo have found a way to hide his deficiencies and not make them so glaring as they were last year playing as a fullback. So why would you want to move that? Like if it's not, what's that? If it's not broke, what is that? Is that the saying? If it's not broke, don't fix it.
yeah, that's the same.
Yeah, there you go. There it is.
Give me that one shot hot take.
Um, One line. Pirlo, just play like Allegri. Just do it. There's no, there's to context to that line. Don't I mean, there's no point in throwing 11 guys there and scoring one goal and then probably going to get scored on and end up in a draw, which seems to happen all. It's like you're not. Everybody wants them to play this like fluid, sexy football, and like I don't remember Juventus that's ever really played like that, and I don't think they've ever played like that since I've watched them. Even under Lippi, it was always grind wins. I don't think they're not Bayern Munich when they're not. They won't be. Not when they won the treble this year. Not when they won it with Robin, like and Mandzukic, like those guys. Like it was just keep the foot on their neck and just go. Juventus are not like that. And Ronaldo, honestly, is 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 getting older, so he's not really like. I mean, obviously he's still producing, but I don't think like there's a team around him that can do that. So don't do that. Look, I'll be happy. Maybe I'm in the minority. I'll be happy if they score one and they just grind out the win the rest of the way. They score two and just grind it out the rest of the way.
So to be clear, your hot take is to play like they played today, going forward, pretty much.
Play more like Allegri rather than play like Sarri. Don't be stubborn with your tactics. How about that? Adapt. Like how two of the last four coaches were stubborn with their tactics. Conte and Sarri. Don't be like them. Be different. But also the same like Allegri. And that's it. And then you might get a shot at making that run to the Champions League and maybe at the 10th straight Scudetto and maybe a Coppa Italia final. So
all right,
4 trophies would be nice.
I'm going to leave that up for debate on Twitter, to be more like Allegri and boring FC.
Sure, if it means wins, why? Be sexy FC and finish in third or something.
Okay,
Napoli have been set. Napoli. Okay, last thing. Napoli have been sexy FC for like the past 5 years, and where'd they get? They beat Chelsea once in the Champions League and second place all the way through. So okay, be that then if you want.
They got a top scorer in Gonzalo Higuain one season.
Yeah.
They got a Capocannonieri. Well, they got a few Coppa Italias actually. Yeah, but sure. Anyways.
Yeah. I digress. We digress.
To end this video off, I'm gonna try to end each video off with I guess a little trivia question. And hopefully with time I'll be able to make this into a little contest giveaway leaderboard type of thing. So we're gonna go guess the goal. I'm not sure if you'll get it, but I don't want you to say it if you know it anyway. I want to leave it up to, the viewers and see what they comment on. So basically this is the riddle. So you have to guess the goal scorer, opponent, and what year it was. So the riddle is: one of my 3 goals in a 6-1 win away from home in our black solid kits was one to remember off the corner kick. So I'll just repeat that once more. So the riddle is, you got to guess the goal scorer, the opponent, and the year. The riddle is: one of my 3 goals in a 6-1 win away from home in our black solid kits was one to remember off the corner kick. So I'm curious to see if anyone guesses those 3 things with that little hint.
Here's a hint. Here's another hint. It was nice.
Yeah, it was a banger, actually.
Yeah.
All right, that's all we'll give. So I hope you guys enjoyed kind of our talk and analysis a little bit of Pirlo's game today. I think we both enjoyed it. We kind of gave me, my brother, and my dad gave one of these at the end of the game.
It was pretty in sync there.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a solid win. Another big game midweek and another big game on the weekend. We march on, and we're climbing up the top with a game in hand. So we'll see what happens tomorrow with Milan Crotone. We'll be watching. And fino alla fine, forza Juve.
And stop disrespecting this man. Top 5, maybe top 2, top 1, probably last 10 years. Forza Juve.
Thanks, Mark, for joining me and being my guinea pig. Follow reJUVEnation on Instagram and my YouTube channel. So subscribe to reJUVEnation. You can follow me on Twitter at Monica Lauriola, where I'll be posting the content as well. And we'll see where else I can post these podcasts as well. Just stay in tune. and join me. Thank you, everyone.
Ciao.